What if the person who left you never truly forgot you? What if they just buried the truth beneath silence, pride, and bad timing? Today we're diving into something most people don't understand until it's too late. The hidden stages of dumpers remorse. Not the fairy tale where an ex comes running back, crying with apologies, but the real journey. The one filled with quiet realizations, emotional walls, waves of nostalgia, and a kind of regret that hides itself until it's far too late. So, what is dumpers remorse, really? It's not just about missing you, it's what happens after they walk away. The slow unraveling of confidence, the whisper of doubt that creeps in at 2 a.m., the sudden flash of memory that takes their breath away. It's a journey packed with contradictions, and every stage tells a deeper story. The stages I'll share today aren't just theory. They come from real people, clients I've coached, stories I've heard, and truths that surfaced over time. Some got their ex back, some didn't, but what stood out every single time were the confessions. What their ex felt but never showed, what they thought but never said. And when you connect those pieces, a pattern appears, a roadmap of the emotional aftermath for the one who walked away. So if you've ever wondered what happens on her side of the silence, stay with me. Like this video if you feel the truth in it. And subscribe to Stoic Station, where clarity replaces chaos and healing doesn't wait for closure to begin. Let's begin with the first stage. Stage number 1, the illusion of certainty. When she walked away, there wasn't a tremble in her voice, no pause in her step, no glance back. To you, it looked effortless, like she had already rehearsed this moment 100 times in her head, and maybe she had. Most people don't end a relationship in a single decision. They unravel it in silence, internally, over time. While you were trying to hold things together, she was quietly building a case to leave. Every fight, every disconnect, every unmet need, stacked like bricks in a wall between you and her. So when she finally walked, it wasn't a shock to her. It was a conclusion. She didn't leave because she stopped caring overnight. She left because she convinced herself it was safer to detach than to stay and risk getting hurt deeper. For her, the breakup wasn't chaos, it was clarity. And in that false sense of clarity, she found comfort. She didn't question herself because, in her mind, the story had already been written. That's why in those early days you won't see remorse. No signs of hesitation, no cracks in her armor, just conviction, just certainty. And that's the part that stings the most. Not just that she left, but that she did it with such unwavering confidence. You're sitting there replaying every good moment, every promise she made, wondering if any of it was ever real. And the worst part? She seems so sure it wasn't. She's not regretting it right now. She's absolutely certain, and that truth hits hard because it makes you question everything she ever said, felt, or promised. But here's what you need to understand. That certainty is rarely permanent. It's often a defense, built not from truth, but from fear. She tells herself she's sure, so she doesn't have to feel the ache of loss, so she doesn't have to deal with the confusion, the guilt, or the what-ifs. What looks like strength is often just suppression, and what feels like indifference is often self-preservation. You're not seeing her truth, you're seeing her armor. And while she may feel firm in her decision today, there will come a moment, often when she least expects it, when the silence between you grows louder than she imagined, and that illusion of certainty begins to crack. Stage number 2, the quiet doubt. When the initial silence takes hold and the adrenaline of her decision begins to wear off, a subtle shift starts to occur. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in slowly, like a question that waits for her in the quiet moments no one else sees. Did I really do the right thing? She won't say it out loud, not to her friends, not to herself in the mirror. But it lingers. It shows up in the pauses between conversations, in the hollow feeling she can't quite name, in the way her mind begins to wander back, not to the bad moments, but to the small, intimate ones. The look in your eyes when you listened to her, the way your presence made her feel less alone in the world, the quiet strength you carried when she was unraveling. This isn't guilt. It's not even longing. It's a crack in her conviction, a glitch in the certainty she clung to so tightly when she walked away. And though she doesn't want to admit it, that whisper only grows louder with time. There's always a part of her that wonders, even if she'd never say it aloud, and that's when the story starts to shift. But rather than face that doubt, she does what most people do when their ego is on the line. She buries it. She starts stacking reasons. She replays your flaws. She rewrites the ending to fit a version of the story that makes her look unshaken, unbothered, and justified. It's not truth. It's self-preservation. The mind protects itself by rationalizing, and even if her heart remembers the connection, her logic works over time to convince her she was right to leave. But that whisper, it never really leaves. Stage number 3, the fortress response. There comes a moment, sometimes unexpected, sometimes triggered by something as simple as a photo of you smiling, that something shifts in her energy. Maybe she hears your name in passing. Maybe she scrolls through her feed and sees that you've been out, living, laughing, existing without her. And in that instant, her body tightens, her expression hardens, the warmth in her eyes, if you cross paths, dims, as if she's bracing herself for impact. It's subtle, but unmistakable. You feel it in the way her replies suddenly become short and distant. You sense it in the silence that now sits between her words. You can feel that wall go up, not slowly, but instantly, like armor, like a fortress. She retreats behind the moment she realizes you're not collapsed without her. This isn't strength. It's not proof that she's over you. It's a defense mechanism kicking in at full force, because to allow herself to believe, even for a second, that she may have walked away from something real, would be to invite the most haunting of realizations, that she made a mistake. And for someone who's worked hard to convince themselves they were right to leave, that truth is unbearable. So she deflects, she distances, she pretends you never really mattered as much as you did. She acts indifferent because the alternative, facing the depth of what she let go, is too much. That push-pull energy, it's not confusion, it's armor. She's walling up, not because she doesn't care, but because caring scares her more than losing you. Especially if she's emotionally avoidant, this is where she begins her most internal battle. Avoidants don't truly want to lose you, they just want to feel in control. They want closeness, but only on their terms, and only when it no longer feels threatening. The paradox is, by the time it feels safe for them to come closer, you're already gone. So she hides behind a fortress, not because she's strong, but because she's scared, not because she's over it, but because she's overwhelmed. You might interpret that distance as closure. You might think she's moved on, but in reality, she's guarding herself. From you, from the truth, and from the emotions she buried when she walked away. And that wall she built? It wasn't made out of bricks. It was made out of fear. Fear that if she lets herself feel, she'll have to confront the part of her that still remembers, the part that still wonders, the part that still hurts. Stage number 4, the shock of your silence. There's a subtle moment, often unnoticed by others, when you shift from reacting to retreating. You no longer reach out just to be heard. You don't respond to every breadcrumb she throws. You stop rushing to explain yourself or fix what's already been broken, and without fanfare or drama you simply stop. At first, she might welcome that silence. Maybe she even expected it, counted on it, as proof that her decision to leave was justified. She may think, he finally got the message. But that calm she feels, it doesn't last. Because silence has a way of echoing louder than words ever could. It doesn't just say, "I'm done texting." It says something deeper, something undeniable. "I'm not waiting anymore." And that realization doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly, one quiet day at a time, one unanswered message, one post she expected but never came, and then suddenly your absence becomes noticeable, heavy, and for the first time it feels permanent. She might try to shrug it off, pretend it doesn't matter, but deep down, your silence starts doing what your words never could. It begins to unsettle her certainty. It makes her wonder if she misunderstood your strength all along. Maybe it wasn't neediness she walked away from, but a man who was willing to fight, until he no longer saw the value in doing so. And now, as the days stretch into weeks and the space between you grows wider, something inside her begins to shift. What once felt like freedom now feels like distance she can't cross. The no-contact rule isn't just a strategy, it's a statement, a declaration of self-respect. And in that silence, unforced, unwavering, unapologetic, you reclaim something that was lost in the noise, your power. Now, she's left with the one question she never expected to ask. Did I lose him? For good? And that question doesn't scream, it whispers, but it echoes in her chest louder than anything you ever said. Stage number 5. When nostalgia wakes up. It doesn't happen in a loud moment. It rarely shows up when she's surrounded by people or caught in the rush of her day. It comes quietly, often when she least expects it. Maybe it's triggered by a familiar scent, a song in a cafe, or the way someone else says your name. Suddenly, the memories start flooding in like old photographs she didn't realize she kept. And just like that, you're not gone. You're vivid. But it's not the big moments that hit her hardest. It's the smallest ones. The way you always checked the locks at night to make her feel safe. The way your voice softened when she was spiraling. The text you sent that made her laugh even when she was distant. Those ordinary, consistent pieces of you start to play back like a melody she once knew by heart and now misses without even meaning to. She's not reminiscing because you reached out. In fact, she wouldn't let herself feel this if you had. What stirs her now isn't your presence, it's your absence. It's the undeniable sense that you're truly gone, not waiting, not orbiting, not hoping, that you've stepped back into your life and left her behind. They don't start missing you when you reach out. They miss you when they're convinced they've lost you for good. And here lies the paradox that catches her off guard. She only feels safe enough to miss you when she believes she no longer has access to you. As long as you're lingering, texting, checking in, trying, there's no room for reflection, only control. But once she senses that her grip is gone, that her version of the story is no longer the only one that matters, that's when nostalgia wakes up. In this space, she's not dissecting why it ended or who was right or wrong. She's feeling something much deeper, much more human, the ache of what she might never experience again, the safety in your presence, the steadiness of your support, the version of herself she only felt when she was with you. And now, in the quiet where she once felt sure, she's not thinking about whether you made mistakes. She's wondering whether she'll ever find that feeling again, and if she gave up something that was never meant to be let go. Stage number 6. The fear of loss. This is where the internal storm finally breaks through the calm. Up until now, she's been able to manage the silence, to rationalize your absence, to believe she was still in control of the story. But something shifts the moment she sees undeniable proof. You're not stuck anymore. You're smiling. You're thriving. Maybe you're even standing beside someone else. And suddenly, the space she once asked for doesn't feel spacious anymore. It feels threatening. What was once her safe distance now looks like a goodbye she never prepared for. That calm confidence you've stepped into doesn't just catch her off guard. It rattles her. She may not show it openly, but behind the screen, the scrolling begins. She checks your posts, reads into every caption, scans the faces around you. She reaches out to mutual friends or drops a casual message, just enough to see if the door is still cracked open. But it's not just curiosity, it's panic disguised as casual interest. Because in her gut, something feels different now. You're not just quiet, you're content, and that's the one thing she didn't expect you to find without her. That moment when she realizes you're not waiting anymore is the moment she panics, because now she's not just losing you, she's losing the version of you that would have still chosen her. It's in that realization that the fear of loss grabs hold. It's not the breakup that scares her, it's the aftermath, the truth that time is moving forward and you're not frozen where she left you. You're healing, evolving, living, and for the first time, she's not sure she has a place in the life you're building. But don't confuse this panic with love. Love reaches for you in stillness, not in urgency. Love doesn't just return when it feels threatened, it stays when things are calm, too. Panic is loud, reactive, and ego-driven. It wants reassurance, not responsibility. And while it might bring her back into your orbit for a moment, it won't keep her there unless something deeper has changed. The fear of losing you is real, but the deeper question is, what does she actually fear losing? The connection you once shared, or the comfort of knowing she could always come back? And that's where the difference between attachment and love becomes painfully clear. Stage number 7, regret without return. This is the stage no one talks about, the one that happens quietly, without a dramatic message or a surprise reappearance. It's the hardest truth of all. Many people regret, but few ever return. Not because they don't care, not because they don't miss you, but because regret is a complex emotion, tangled in pride, fear, and timing. She might think of you at night. She might replay old memories, remember the way you made her feel seen, protected, alive. She might even cry alone, mourning something she never thought she'd miss. But none of that guarantees action. Because reaching out would mean admitting something she worked so hard to bury, that maybe she was wrong, that maybe she let go of something real. And for many, that level of vulnerability feels too exposing, too raw. So instead of calling you, she stays quiet. Instead of facing the discomfort of the truth, she learns to carry it in silence. Regret doesn't always come with a knock at the door. Sometimes it's just a silent scream she never lets you hear. You may never know how often she checks your name, how many times she starts a message only to delete it. You may never know how deeply she feels, because her pride won't let her admit she still does. And over time, she convinces herself that reaching out would only make things worse. So she lets it pass. Not because she has nothing left to say, but because she doesn't know how to say it anymore. And even if she does come back, it might not be for the reasons you've hoped. Sometimes people return not because they want to build something lasting, but because they're craving a feeling. One more time. The comfort of your presence, the familiarity of your voice, like playing an old song, not to live in it, but to remember who they were when it mattered. But nostalgia isn't the same as commitment. And regret isn't always followed by redemption. That's why your healing can't depend on her return, because the truth is, she might carry her regret for years and never do a thing about it. And you deserve a life that isn't on pause waiting for someone else to find the courage you already had. Summary: from her silence to your strength, that's where your real healing begins. The stages of dumpers remorse are rarely predictable. They don't follow a timeline. They don't arrive in neat, clear patterns. And the hardest truth of all is this: not every ex will feel them the way you hope, and not every ex will come back, even if they do. But none of that should define your healing, because healing doesn't happen when she finally feels something. It doesn't begin when she misses you, or when regret starts to crack her certainty. Healing begins the moment you decide that you no longer need her recognition to reclaim your worth. It begins when you stop hoping for closure and start building peace without it. You don't become stronger by proving her wrong. You become stronger by proving to yourself that you were always more than who she saw at the end. You grow not through her return, but through your own return, to your values, to your boundaries, to the man you lost sight of while trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see your worth clearly. Let her live with the what if. Let her wonder what would have happened if she'd stayed, if she'd listened to her doubt, if she'd looked deeper instead of walking away. Let her sit with the silence she created, because that silence now speaks to her louder than your presence ever could. And you keep going. Keep building the life you once paused for her. Step into the quiet strength of a man who no longer waits for permission to move forward. Not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of clarity. Because sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is walk away without noise, without anger, without revenge, just peace. Peace in knowing that you gave what was real, that you showed up with honesty, that you loved with depth. And now you're loving yourself enough to let go, with dignity and without looking back. If this message touched a part of you that needed to remember your worth, let it stay with you. Keep walking forward with quiet strength. Like this video if it spoke to you, and subscribe to Stoic Station, where healing isn't noise, it's clarity, where letting go doesn't mean weakness. It becomes your power.